Waters, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Marie Harf, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five.
Where are we supposed to look?
Breaking news, we are awaiting a press conference from FBI Director Christopher Wray in response to the scathing Justice Department Inspector General report. We'll bring it to you when it happens. Among the many new revelations, the IG report blasts former FBI Director James Comey for how he handled the Hillary Clinton email probe, saying he broke protocol. The White House is responding to stunning developments.
The president was briefed on the IG report earlier today, and it reaffirmed the president's suspicions about Comey's conduct and the political bias among some of the members of the FBI.
Outnumbered.
All right, let's bring in special report anchor Bret Baier. Bret, I'm sure you have not read the entire thing, or you're probably making your way through it.
You know how many trees we've killed, Jesse? I mean, we're all printing it. 568
And I'm sure you're
pages.
all reading it.
So tell me, just
Dana did.
What really jumps out at you so far from what you've seen from the report?
One, the big loser, James Comey. This IG really goes after the former FBI director for his decision-making. Two, the other loser, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and those text messages that surface, more of them in this report, the biggest of which will be, I'm sure, grasped upon by President Trump and his supporters, and that is 7 words. That is an answer to a text from Lisa Page to Peter Strzok. Trump's never going to become president, right? Right. And Strzok then responds, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Well, that in and of itself, even though we don't have the full context of what they're talking about there, just that in a vacuum will create major fuel to the issue of what was happening behind the scenes. The other thing, though, to note is that overall at 30,000 feet, the IG says that they couldn't document political bias within the FBI on the decisions made early in the Clinton email case. It does raise questions, though, about the bias that they did find and how that affects the case after July, when the FBI Director Comey comes out with that news statement.
Yeah, and it seems like the report really tees up the next IG report about the Russia investigation, especially off of these new Page Strzok texts. Let's take it around the table. Kimberly Guilfoyle.
All right. So, Bret, I think there was a lot of, people saying there's going to be significant evidence in here. It's obviously quite voluminous. But in terms of the level of discussion that preceded this, do you think that the takeaway, what you're hearing from behind the scenes, is that this was something that they overpromised, underdelivered, or how would you characterize it?
Yeah, I think, first of all, depending on your political point of view,
right,
if you're just talking pure politics, you'll look at this and there'll be people who say, oh, it's a nothing burger, and there'll be other people who say it's really chock full of damning things. I think what you'll hear from the FBI Director, Chris Wray, is that this is a big problem within the FBI, and they're going to probably announce some kind of action that they're taking.
They should.
If you look at Trey Gowdy and what he put out in this statement that he put out, he says he's alarmed, angered, and deeply disappointed, and goes on to detail in pretty scathing terms what he sees, and he's a guy who's defended the FBI even in the most recent Spygate stuff.
Well, Juan Williams took a really good day to take off, and we have Marie Harf in his place. Marie, take it away.
Hi, Bret. Well, Jim Comey already responded in a New York Times op-ed where he endorsed the IG's efforts but said he disagreed with some of the findings in it. What do you think's next for Jim Comey? Does he keep speaking out? Does he go quiet? Is he investigated further by DOJ? What happens for him next?
I bet you he kind of goes into the night. It's interesting that he's out of the country at the time the IG report is coming out. He obviously made his rounds on the media, including on Special Report. He made the book tour. He kind of laid the groundwork for his defense, and obviously has this letter to the New York Times. But the stuff in here suggests that he made some big mistakes in the eyes of the Inspector General of the Justice Department. And no matter if you look at it from a Clinton perspective, that there are folks who think he cost Hillary Clinton the election, or a Trump perspective and how he dealt with President Trump after the election.
I mean, he took it on the chin. I mean, they said he committed serious violations of FBI policy and processed and then damage the credibility of the investigation and the institution itself. So pretty tough stuff coming out of the IG report. Dana?
Well, Brett, in James Comey's statement in reaction to this right away, first a tweet and then an op-ed in the New York Times, he says, look, I respect the IG. I think they did a great work here. Reasonable people can disagree. So he's moving on. Now, the Strzok's attorney, he did put out a statement as well, but he didn't address these text messages. And I'm curious if you think that that might happen. And then my other question is, Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, had a lot of bipartisan support, lots of credibility across administrations. Congressman Ratcliffe said today that he has read the report, he's been briefed on it, and he still maintains confidence in Michael Horowitz, which I guess means that this next IG report, which is on the actual Clinton emails themselves, and that investigation would at least have some credibility.
Yeah, and I think these are questions that I'm going to ask Chairman Gowdy and Goodlatte, and they'll be on in the next hour on Special Report. I think that there is a lot here that tees up, as Jesse mentioned, the next iteration of the IG's efforts. And the second text, the part that says, no, he won't be president, we'll stop it, that was just released in the past few days, weeks. And the first part, where the question is asked, will he be president, was released, but the second part was not. That tells you something about transparency and where this document back and forth is going up with Capitol Hill and oversight. I think, to your point, people will look at this and there'll be Republicans who look at it and say it just didn't deliver, and I think others will look at it and say there's a lot in here yet to be mined.
Yeah.
Okay, and now from the Five's Inspector General, Greg Gutfeld.
This is a stunning read, Brett. It's blowing my mind. Hey, I heard a rumor that the FBI is going to change their name to FWB, Feds with Benefits. Is that true?
There is a section in the IG report that deals specifically with that, about tickets from media organizations and invites to golf outings. And
yes.
I
do have a serious question. There was a part there where we found out that Comey used his private email to conduct, I think it was non-classified business, which may be why he couldn't damn Hillary for doing the same thing, because it's like mutually assured destruction. Everybody's guilty of doing the same thing. Could that be part of the reason why he decided not to proceed further?
I tell you what, you're trying to be funny, but these are two really good nuggets of the report that had not been kind of put out there. Comey is using a private email, even though it's unclassified, to deal with the email investigation of Hillary Clinton. And the IG says that's not a good thing. I've got the Gutfeld diaries over here, and I've been looking through them.
Frightening.
Oh, no, sorry.
You're on page 70.
All right, Brett.
Yes.
You don't want to be in Gutfeld's diary. That's the last place you want to be. But nice job with the interview the other day of the president.
Yeah, very
And
nice.
we'll be looking forward to 6 p.m. for another great special report.
All right, see you guys.
All right, Kimberly, like we talked about, some of these nuggets that are coming out, and it's going to take probably another 24 hours to get all of them. Her emails were penetrated by a foreign agent. And that we really didn't know, because Comey himself said it was possible that that happened, and now we learn that it actually did happen. And one of those emails was considered secret, which means disclosure of that email reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage to the national security of the United States.
Yeah, I think this is significant because much was made at the time. Oh, well, it's possible, but there was no nailing it down. But obviously they knew and were not honest about it, and essentially what I call that is a cover-up. Like, why, if you knew that in fact that they had been penetrated and they had been read, etc., by or accessed by a foreign agent, that is significant. It is a security breach of the highest order and something that is very disconcerting for us for national security. But there you go, Hillary Clinton, the rules of law do not apply it to her or to Mr. Comey. Birds of a feather flocking together.
Right, another weasel move by the director. Marie, some of the nuggets that I'm really interested in deal with Strzok, because they keep coming. We'll stop it, meaning we'll stop the Trump presidency. When you pair that with they need to protect the country from Donald Trump, and we need an insurance policy in case he is elected. And now FBI agents are calling Trump supporters retarded. At least 5 FBI agents exchanging anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text messages. The IG says there was willingness to take official action to impact Trump's electoral prospects. That sounds pretty serious to me.
It does, and I think they demonstrated incredibly bad judgment. But the IG also found that there was no evidence that political bias or improper motivation affected the Hillary email investigation. So what I've always said is these people should not have been doing this. It was stupid. It looks bad, and the IG actually found that it looked bad. It called into question the investigation's impartiality, but there's no evidence that their personal views impacted it.
Yeah, because they're not dumb enough to leave a paper trail.
Well, but
except Strzok and Page.
Jesse, you and a lot of folks on the conservative side have been waiting for this report and basically putting a lot of faith in what comes out of it. They found very clearly, I think so.
Because I think we've been downplaying it. We said it was probably going to be a big airball. But go ahead.
I think it's important. This is selective history. It's fake news. I think that it's important that they did not find evidence that political bias impacted the investigation. They also found that they had no ability to prosecute Hillary Clinton under the 5 statutes they examined. So I'm not an attorney, but the Department of Justice looked into the question that a lot of Republicans and Trump supporters keep bringing up and found, in fact, that they did the right thing here.
That's actually not true. What the IG report says, Dana, is that witnesses, meaning prosecutors at the DOJ or FBI investigators, didn't think that this would be a prosecutable case. It doesn't mean the IG concluded that that was the fact. It just meant some attorneys disagreed.
Well, and to further that, I think one of the things Comey did was, so the IG says insubordinate, or insubordination, but who did that really benefit? It benefited Loretta Lynch, who was the Attorney General, because he then took it out of her hands for making a charging decision that I'm sure President Obama and Loretta Lynch did not want to do to their nominee.
Of course.
But this gets me back to the original point of how do we even know any of this? Why have we spent so much time and so much money on all of this? And it goes back to Hillary Clinton's decision to subvert the process, to have her own email system, to have a private server. And we are still, that was in 2015 that we found out. It is 2018. And we have spent 500 pages.
Why doesn't she pay it back?
Now,
what you
might say is that at least she uncovered this, Strzok and Page email situation and their bias against the president. I don't know.
We've been looking backwards for a long time on this show.
I remember we said, I don't know when it was, when she was like talking about gender, and we kept, it's not about the female, it's about the email.
Right.
That's what we kept saying. A couple of
what
points.
What a smart show this is.
Yes, it is.
Sounds like the White House carpet.
How amazing it must be to be Anthony Weiner. He might be one of the few people who's happy he's in jail. Because the fact is, if it wasn't for his laptop and his lap, Trump wouldn't have been elected. And we should be thanking Anthony Weiner. He kept Hillary out of office. It's really about him and Huma. But I will say,
there they are.
Also, it is amazing. Again, this is more evidence that Donald Trump can turn people into emotional high school freshmen. Strzok and Page, they were like the characters in the David Bowie song Heroes. They're up against the wall. They're fighting. They're going to stop Trump and do anything they can. It was so deeply emotional for them. They were like star-crossed lovers in a romantic song. One final point.
Hollywood starlets. They're behaving like liberal Hollywood.
Exactly. I think it's weird timing that the day that this report comes out, the media gets a gift in this state of New York suing Trump over the Trump Foundation. It's incredibly well played, and
that's
to me,
a coincidence.
No, it's not. It's party and media
Obviously.
working hand in hand,
Well,
and it's just, to me, just so obvious and wrong.
It is. And to Greg's
Someone's gotta
point
go to jail.
about Carlos Danger, they found that they sat on these emails for, I think, a month, and Strzok was behind those, slow-walking those up to James Comey's office.
Yeah, it's when you see this, it's really sad, isn't it, though? We read this and you become almost desensitized, but this is really egregious. You're talking about, the FBI that is, held to the highest regard in terms of justice and supposed to be truth-seeking and fact-finding without any ideological bent. And you see people here that were only hell-bent on undermining the Trump campaign and preventing a presidency. You see a candidate in Hillary Clinton that completely just disregarded the law, destruction of evidence, and really just creating a situation investigation that undermines the confidence not only in our political process and campaigns and elections, but in our highest investigatory agencies. And what you're seeing here is a modified, redacted report by Ron Rosenstein, who was allowed to do this, and he's actually in the middle of all of it. So how is this, coming at it with clean hands? We actually don't know what all the evidence is because some of it has been removed.
Well, and I think some members of Congress are trying to request the original drafts of the documents before they were changed or allowed to have been looked at by other people. All right, more breaking developments on the DOJ's IG report coming right up. And we're also awaiting the FBI's press conference at 5:30, and we're going to have that for you live. Plus, watch this White House reporter. They are screaming at Press Secretary Sarah Sanders over immigration. Packed hour of the 5. Don't go away.
A day after President Trump labels fake news the enemy of the country, White House reporter Brian Karem loses it on Press Secretary Sarah Sanders over separating undocumented children from their parents. Take a look at this tense moment.
Come on, Sarah, you're a parent. Don't you have any empathy for what these people are going through? They have less than you do.
Guys,
Sarah, come on,
settle down.
Seriously.
I'm trying to be serious, but I'm not going to have you yell out of turn. Jill, please
It's
call.
a law, and they have, these people have nothing. They
Hey,
come
Brian,
over here
I know
with
you want to
nothing.
get some more TV
It's
time, but
not
that's not
that.
what this
It's
is
not
about. If I
that.
want to
It's about
recognize
answering
you,
a question,
go ahead,
Sarah.
Jill.
Honestly, answer the question. It's a serious question. These people have nothing. They come to the border with nothing, and you throw children in cages. You're a parent. You're a parent of young children. Don't you have any empathy for what they go through?
Oh, my goodness. All right, so getting a little intense there, Greg, in the press briefing room. So what do you make of that?
I was waiting for him to throw a shoe, but judging from his apparel, I don't think he wears them. He's the press club hobo. All he needs is a little bindle. You remember the little bindle that hobos used to have?
What was in those bindles? Right? They're very small.
We were always told that Trump, it's true, there was never anything you could put in the bindle.
No,
it's
nothing.
true. They always said that Donald Trump would be a terrible influence on his side, the Republicans, and they're half right. He's been a terrible influence on the media. Now, because I think they judge Trump's behavior and say that you can say and do whatever you want now, including being a complete jackass, which he was. That was a purely an emotional and a dishonest response on his part. Their kids are not being held in cages. Maybe you saw that as a meme on Twitter, but that's not reporting, strange man. There's no policy about family separation. It just so happens if you're going to deal with the parents, you got to get the kids away, and they're trying to get them to a relative, living relative, or a friend in the United States. That's what they're trying to do.
They're being careful.
They're not putting them in cages, you nutbag. Sorry.
Any other
No.
names?
I hope he does have shoes.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should.
Everybody should have shoes.
Okay, Dana.
I'm pro shoe.
Me too.
Yes.
I'm not shoes. I'm not.
You
pro
like pink
being
shoes and
I'm a
dry.
fan of Elizabeth's shoe. Should we move on?
Adventures in babysitting. Yes, let's go to some common sense and intelligence, shall we?
Well, I do think that this issue of children being separated from their parents is one that you can go through all of the policy points, and it's quite logical. You can see the laws, the executive orders, how HHS, Health and Human Services, and DHS, Department of Homeland Security, tries to deal with this issue. But there's also, as Greg's talked about, there's the emotional part of it. And it is strong, and you have it running rampant. I do think the White House needs to get in front of this a little bit, because he wasn't just being a jerk. The people are like, are you kidding me? You are ripping babies out of the arms of their mothers, and this is crazy. And just to say, like, you're ridiculous, that's fake news. I actually think that online in particular, this is spreading quite rapidly.
But they're using false pictures.
I agree, but that's what I mean. I think that your point that the president needs to give a speech.
Yes. Path to citizenship.
And it should be on a teleprompter or whatever. It should be a detailed speech about what he is for, what he is not for. And he has signaled that he is willing to go for this new compromise that the House Republicans have come up with that actually, it could pass. And that would be very good. But the other thing is, again, I go to the root cause. The drug cartels are really fueling this. They have figured out a way to make a nice little bit of side money, because it's not just like on the money. They're like, oh, we could get money by getting like your life savings, and you'll give it to me, and I'll tell you how to go, and the coyotes send the people there, and that's what's actually the problem. Like, we have to deal with the root cause of it. and deal with the fact that we have some people here that need to be taken care of and returned to their home.
How dare you call them coyotes?
Yeah, I think coyotes charge about $5,000 a head
5,000.
at the border.
Right. But taking
Children
advantage of these families.
get a
and
discount.
children.
And how do you know if they're even related when some guy brings
This is
over
the
some young
problem.
kid? You don't know.
By
You
the
don't know
way-
if they're being trafficked. So you want
Great
to
point.
separate them. They're trying to do what's best for the kids. Also deter people from bringing people across the border. You know what's a great deterrent? You don't never have to separate a family at the border? A wall. How about just building a wall? There won't be people coming across. You won't have to separate anybody. This guy is an emotional wreck. He embarrassed himself. He doesn't belong in that room. It's like Acosta. I don't care if you have opinions like that. Be an analyst. Go debate it on CNN in prime time. But don't pretend to be a nonpartisan correspondent and then melt down like that and embarrass your integrity. These people don't belong there. They're jokes. They need the ripping press passes away. If you're going to act like a wild animal,
Right.
and
So-
you don't belong there. And if that was a Republican,
Animals.
if
Here we
that
go,
was
animals
a
again.
right, if that was a
animals
conservative reporter yelling at a female Democrat press secretary,
People would
the lead
flip.
story
Oh, God,
would be
did that
completely
ever
different.
happen?
Did James Rosen ever did that to you?
We got to be
Did he ever do that?
we have 45
So
seconds.
I think that Dana's absolutely right. It is a very emotional issue, and I do think that Sarah Sanders needs a better answer than to ignore it. She needs to think about it and talk about it in a
No, they
very
need to give her better
compassionate way.
facts.
And then the president needs to take charge of it and do what Greg has.
I think
said he
Sarah
should do.
Sanders just needs, they owe her better at the White House. They need to give her
Yes,
better
that
facts.
is right.
All right. Okay. No personal attacks. Not nice. We're minutes away from the FBI's response to the DOJ watchdog report. Stay with us.
Fox News Alert, we're learning brand new details from the DOJ Inspector General report. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is at the Justice Department with the latest. Catherine, I haven't talked to you in a couple of hours. We'd love to check back in with you and get your thoughts. Now we are at 5:30, right before this press conference that the FBI is going to hold.
That's right. Well, that's right, Dana, and thank you. This is the 500-page report. It was 17 months in the making, and there are a handful of key takeaways. Number one, for FBI Director James Comey, the Inspector General found that when he gave a statement in July 2016 about the Clinton email case, and when he recommended against criminal charges, the Inspector General found that that was insubordination, that he had gone outside the chain of command. He had not notified his leadership, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, her deputy, Sally Yates, and that when he made that decision, it was not really his to make. That should have fallen to the Justice Department. Number two, these text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page, this really hung like a cloud over the Clinton email investigation. The Inspector General found that there was no documented evidence that political bias infected the Clinton email investigation. So in other words, that it changed the steps that they took in the investigation prior to Comey's statement in July 2016. But just last month, a new text message was uncovered between Strzok and Page where they talk about stopping Donald Trump. And the Inspector General said that in the latter stages of the email case, Agent Strzok made the priority of the Russia investigation and not the Clinton emails, and that explained why there was such a delay to go through newly discovered emails that had been found in late September on Anthony Weiner's laptop that he shared with his wife, Clinton aide Huma Abedin. On Attorney General Loretta Lynch, the Inspector General found that she showed bad judgment when she met with Bill Clinton on that Arizona tarmac, in not only for the public confidence in the Justice Department and FBI, but also for the integrity of the email investigation. Dana.
We're about 45 seconds away from the press conference. We've gotten word that they're almost ready. Can you tell me anything more about what Peter Strzok's lawyer said today, and if we'll hear anything more from him, especially about that most seemingly damning text message?
Right. Okay, so Peter Strzok's lawyer's position is that any delay in the final stages of the Clinton email investigation was down to just basic miscommunications between Strzok, Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, and Director James Comey. It was not because of political
Catherine,
bias.
I'm going to have to interrupt you and turn it over to Chris Wray, the FBI Director.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for being here on such short notice. As you all know, of course, the Justice Department's Office of the Inspector General issued its report today. about DOJ and FBI activity in the run-up to the 2016 election. Let me say up front that I appreciate the Inspector General's work on this important review. I thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about the report, and then I'm happy to take a few questions. The FBI's mission is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. But to carry out that mission, we're entrusted with a lot of authority. So our actions are subject to close oversight from the courts, from our elected leaders, and from independent entities like the Inspector General. And that's how it should be. That kind of examination, that kind of oversight makes the FBI stronger as an organization and makes the public more safe. With that in mind, let me briefly address the findings in the Inspector General's report. I take this report very seriously, and we accept its findings and recommendations. It's also important, though, to note what the Inspector General did not find. This report did not find any evidence of political bias or improper considerations actually impacting the investigation under review. The report does identify errors of judgment, violations of or even disregard for policy, and decisions that, at the very least, with the benefit of hindsight, were not the best choices. We've already started taking the necessary steps to address those issues. First, we're going to hold employees accountable for any potential misconduct. We've already referred conduct highlighted in the report to our disciplinary arm, OPR, which is the FBI's independent Office of Professional Responsibility. We need to hold ourselves accountable for the choices we make and the work we do. We're doing that fairly but without delay in the way that people should expect. We're going to adhere to the appropriate disciplinary process, and once that process is complete, we won't hesitate to hold people accountable for their actions. Second, we're going to make sure that every FBI employee understands the lessons of this report. Because change starts at the top, starts with me, we're going to require all of our senior executives from all around the world to convene for in-depth training specifically focused on learning the lessons that we should learn from this report. Then we're going to train every single FBI employee, both new hires and veterans alike, on what went wrong so these mistakes will never be repeated. Third, we're going to make sure that we have the policies, the procedures, and the training that are needed for everyone to understand and remember what is expected of all of us. That includes drilling home the importance of objectivity, of avoiding even the appearance of personal conflicts or political bias in our work, ensuring that recusals are handled correctly and effectively and communicated to all the right people, making all of our employees fully aware of our new policy on media contacts, which I issued last November, and making painfully clear that we will not tolerate non-compliance. Ensuring that we follow all DOJ policies on public statements about uncharged conduct or ongoing investigations. And ensuring that our employees adhere strictly to all policies and procedures about the use of FBI systems, networks, and devices. I've also directed our Associate Deputy Director to lead a review of how the FBI handles sensitive investigations and to make recommendations on how those should be staffed, structured, and supervised in the future so that every sensitive investigation is conducted to the FBI's highest standards. We're going to continue also to work with the department to gauge our progress in each of these areas. The OIG report makes clear that we've got some work to do. But let's also be clear on the scope of this report. It's focused on a specific set of events back in 2016 and a small number of FBI employees connected to those events. Nothing in this report impugns the integrity of our workforce as a whole or the FBI as an institution. As I said earlier, fair and independent scrutiny is welcome, and appropriate accountability is crucial. We're going to learn from this report, and we're going to be better and stronger as a result. But I also want to be crystal clear about the FBI that I get to see. In the past 10 months, I've been able to visit over 30 of our FBI field offices around the country and a whole bunch of our LEGAT offices overseas. I've visited with folks from every FBI division at headquarters, and in office after office, meeting after meeting, I see extraordinary people doing extraordinary work. Again and again, I hear remarkable stories, frankly inspiring stories, about the work the men and women of the FBI are doing to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. Just in the past several months, we've disrupted terrorist attacks in places ranging from the Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco to a crowded shopping mall in Miami. In March, we charged a ring of Iranian state-sponsored hackers with stealing terabytes of data from scores of American companies, universities, and government agencies. In Austin, we deployed more than 600 of our people to assist in the investigation of the package bombings down there. This year alone, we've rescued 1,305 kids from child predators, some of them as young as 7 months old. We've arrested more than 4,600 gang members, violent gang members, in just the past several months. Our FBI lab has closed thousands of cases through fingerprint analysis and DNA analysis. And our hostage rescue team has deployed something like 27 different times on missions around the country. I could go on and on. The FBI's men and women are doing all that work with the unfailing fidelity to the Constitution and the laws that it demands, the bravery that it calls for, and the integrity that the American people rightly expect. As FBI director, I'm laser focused on ensuring that our folks get to continue that great work and do it with the fidelity and bravery and integrity that we've always had. As I've been saying since as far back as my confirmation hearing, I'm a huge believer in the importance of process, of doing this job by the book in every respect, and I expect all our employees to do the same. I've tried to emphasize that at every opportunity. In my view, the FBI's brand over the past 110 years is based less on all of our many, many successes than it is on the way in which we've earned those successes. Following our rules, following the law, following our guidelines, staying faithful to our core values and our best traditions, trying to make sure we're doing the right thing, but to doing it in the right way, treating everybody with respect, and following the facts independently and objectively, no matter who likes it. That is the best way. That, in my view, is the only way to maintain trust and credibility with the people we serve. I appreciate this chance to respond to the IG's report, and I would also refer you for more detail in our written response that's attached at the end of the Inspector General's report. And with that, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Director Wray, which counts in particular that's singled out in the report has been referred to OPR? What are you referring to in particular?
I can't comment on any specific personnel matter. I would just say that there are a number of instances in the report where there's conduct that's highlighted. We've had that referred to our, as I say, our disciplinary arm, our OPR. There's a process for that. It's a tough process. It's a rigorous process. And we expect that process to be followed. And once that process is complete, we won't hesitate to hold people accountable. Yeah.
Just to follow on that, I know you can't talk about the specific conduct, but here it does say that Director Comey, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok all use personal email accounts, but only Peter Strzok is being referred for an investigation to see if that's in violation of policies. Is that investigation ongoing, and are there any individuals besides Peter Strzok who are being investigated internally?
Well, again, I'm not going to talk about any particular personnel matter because I don't think that would be appropriate. As I said at the beginning, I'm committed to doing the right thing in the right way and by the book. And by the book does not include talking about pending personnel matters with all of you, much as you might like for me to ask that. So, yeah, thanks.
Hi, Director Josh Gershon with Politico. You said there's nothing in the report that impugns the integrity of the FBI's workforce as a whole, but the report does say that there is a culture of leaking at the FBI. Do you disagree with that finding in the report, and what do you plan to do about it if you do agree with it?
Well, as I said, we accept the findings of the report and the recommendations. We're doing a number of things on that regard. First, we issued a new media policy that's much stricter and much more clear than what had been in place before. Second, we're going to be doing intensive training on exactly those issues, things like the one that you alluded to, that includes contacts with the media. Third, we're going to make painfully clear to everybody that we won't tolerate non-compliance. And then last, I've asked our OPR to take a hard look at whether or not they think the penalties that exist right now are sufficient to deal with that kind of conduct.
Director Ray, Shimon
Yeah, sure.
Shimon Lopez from CNN. I want to talk a little about, maybe ask you about sort of the reputation of the FBI. Certainly, the FBI has taken a lot of hits from the president in his tweets and what he's called, certain things he said about certain investigations. Members of Congress have certainly hit at you guys. And now certainly this report, takes some issues with the FBI. And a lot of what we've been hearing is that, people are worried that the reputation of the FBI has suffered as a result of all the activity in the last several months. And I'm just wondering if you think that's the case, and if so, what you intend to do to try and fix some of the perception perhaps that the public may have of the FBI now.
Well, that's a subject that's near and dear to me. I guess I would say a couple things. One is there's no shortage of opinions about us out there. I will tell you that the opinions that I care the most about are the opinions of the people who actually really know us and know us through our work. So I'm focused on what juries think when our agents take the stand. I'm focused on what judges think when we give them a search warrant. I'm focused on what victims and their families think when they are asked, who do you trust to get your child back? I'm focused on what do our state and local law enforcement partners think when they think, who do they trust? Who do prosecutors want to work with on cases? To me, it's the work that matters. So I look at things like that. I look at how our recruiting is doing. I look at how our retention is doing. Our recruiting, we get about 12,000 plus people, for example, trying to be special agents every year. Our admission rate, our selection rate, 5%. That's better than the admission rate at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or Stanford. And it's not a fluke. We just recently hired a whole new crop of honors interns. So the young people coming out of college who have lots of choices about what they want to do with their careers. We had the highest number of applicants we've ever had for our honors intern program. You want to know what that admission rate was? 5%. So I look at things like that. I look at what people think when they know us, and I look at what people think when they express their views through their actions. I look at our attrition rate. Our attrition rate in the agent population in the FBI is 0.8%. So in my view, the views that matter, the opinions that matter, are the views of the people who know us through our work. And when I go around the country and around the world and I talk to our partners and I talk to the victims and I talk to the people who know us, our brand's doing just fine there. Thank you.
When you read this report, if you could sum up your reaction and from having read it in one word, what is that word, and how would you describe your emotional reaction to it?
Disappointed.
Why?
Yes.
Why disappointed? Have you ever used a personal email address for any FBI business?
Not that I can think of.
Director, Chris Sharma, Bloomberg News. Some people are going to use this report to criticize the Mueller investigation because Strzok worked on both investigations. What assurances can you give that the Mueller investigation has integrity and credibility? And also, some people are already criticizing you for making mistakes by sharing documents with Congress, investigative documents. And so, how do you respond to criticism that you might be making mistakes right now by sharing investigative material with Congress?
Well, I think on the first point, I'm not going to speak for the Office of Special Counsel. I would note that there are a number of things that we've done, both in terms of referring people to OPR, but also in terms of reassigning people to try to ensure that we're bringing the right kind of integrity to staffing in all sensitive investigations. As to the congressional question, my view is we have an obligation to be responsive to legitimate congressional oversight. That's part of our job. As I said at the beginning, we are entrusted with enormous power, and so we should expect we're going to get tough questions, and we need to be responsive and cooperate with that. But we also have an obligation to protect sources and methods and not to compromise ongoing criminal investigations and to adhere to things like grand jury secrecy and things like that. And so the challenge is, how do we make sure we do both? We're committed to trying to do both, and I think we've struck the right balance so far.
Are you correct, Jeff Degase with CBS News, specifically about the president's criticism of the FBI? He has, over the last year or so, attacked the credibility of the FBI. Do you think this DOJ IG report now validates his criticism?
Well, again, I'm not going to comment on any other person's opinions, no matter where they're communicated. What I am going to do is talk about the opinions that I think matter. The opinions to me that matter are the opinions of the people that are relevant to our work day in, day out, all across this country. We have 37,000 FBI employees, agents, analysts, and staff, and scores of task force officers that work with them. And every day, all around this country and around the world, those people are having to make important decisions that protect lives. The opinions of the people that they have to engage with on that work, those are the opinions that matter to me. That's what I'm focused on. As far as the report goes, there's some sobering lessons in there, and we're going to learn those lessons, and we're going to act on those lessons, and that's the way the FBI has always handled these things in the past, and that's what made the FBI stronger over the last 110 years. Yeah.
Members of Congress are acting in good faith in their oversight efforts, given that that the FBI has disagreed with some of the characterizations of meetings and various things that have come out?
I think Congress has a job to do, and we have a job to do. And together, we're trying to work through the various issues that are presented by the tensions between congressional oversight and, as I said earlier, protection of sources, methods, tradecraft, ongoing investigations, trying to work through those things with Congress. Yes.
One more question.
Yes.
I know you don't want to identify the people who are involved or have been referred to OPR, but can you tell us how many have been referred to OPR as a result of this report?
I can't. That's not a topic I can comment on. I really want to be careful. I know why you're asking the question, and I respect that, but it's really important to me to make sure that we don't compound the mistakes that are found in this report by deviating from our process. And so I think it's very important that we respect the appropriate process, that it be done right, as I said earlier, by the book. And once that process is complete, we will not hesitate to hold people accountable.
Director, you said there are sobering lessons from this report. What are the lessons?
The lessons are the importance, number one, the importance of trying to make sure that we avoid even the appearance of bias in all of our work, that objectivity and the appearance of objectivity matters. There's lessons in there about contacts with the media and appropriate engagement with all of you. There's lessons in there about the appropriate uses of devices. There's a number of things, and the IG has a number of, I think, 9 recommendations at the end, and I think those are the lessons that we're trying to learn from this report. And we take it very seriously, and we accept the findings and the recommendations.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, that was Christopher Wray. He's the FBI director talking about the IG report from the Justice Department. One of the things he said is that nothing in this report impugns the integrity of our workforce as a whole or the FBI as an institution. And then while we were watching that press conference, Hillary Clinton decided to weigh in. So I think we have a tweet from her. Let's see, we have it here. So Kyle Cheney is talking about how Comey used a personal email address to do some business, and Hillary Clinton writes 3 words: but my emails. And Greg, you're sort of alluding to this earlier.
Yes, it was a question I posed to that young man, Bret Baier. You know what's funny about what Hillary's doing? That Christopher Wray brought up tons of examples of the great work that the FBI does, all these cases that they've solved, and it underlines the tremendous amount of wasted energy and time invested in this scandal because of the tweeter Hillary. But my emails, but your emails are the reason why this is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, go to the woods.
And stay there, and Jesse will find you.
I've already tried to hunt her down. She was nowhere to be found. I like this guy. He's a straight shooter, Chris Wray. He had to protect his agency. That's fine. He's going to take disciplinary action, probably against Strzok. I mean, this guy is a total catastrophe, and he's almost single-handedly, besides Comey, destroyed the reputation of the FBI. And they're going to retrain everybody and tell everybody not to leak. That's good. But the bottom line is, Hillary was never going to be charged. The Obama DOJ, they were never going to charge her. Hillary always skates. Bill Clinton always skates. She was the most powerful woman in the world, about to become president. They're not going to charge her, and that was never, ever going to happen.
Comey should have made Loretta Lynch do it then.
Yes.
Right?
He should have punted it to her and had her
then we
take
wouldn't
the
have
fall.
this whole mess.
Yeah, but that's part of his whole ego, is that, he's smarter than everybody. He knows better than everyone else. So he appointed himself judge and jury. He usurped her power. It was inappropriate. It wasn't up to him whether or not to make a charging decision. So people are upset about this. You should be upset with Comey specifically as well, because he's the one that put the fix in. He was the puppeteer of this whole thing. It's an obstruction of justice. It's filthy, the whole thing, how this went down. And it really besmirches the reputation of the incredible men and women that work at the FBI. You have people like Strzok and Page and Comey and these people that decided, that they woke up one morning and someone made them God.
Right. Well, and I am furious at Comey. I'm furious at him as a Democrat, because you read this and some of the things he's being criticized for, the decisions, whether it was the July 5th statement about Hillary Clinton, the October statement said they reopened the investigation. Those decisions hurt Hillary Clinton and helped Donald Trump politically. So Comey, who already was not a sympathetic character to any Democrat or Republican that I know, I think comes out of this looking really bad, really sanctimonious. Christopher Wray, watching that, he screams nonpartisanship. He screams competence. That's the kind of FBI director Jim Comey wanted to be seen as. And now look at what's happened.
You know what the other bad news about this? More training. Like, these are FBI agents. They're
we're good.
Well, they're supposed to be solving problems. They're going to turn the FBI into Starbucks.
Are we all done here?
Oh.
Okay. I couldn't hear what you said in my ear. I'm sorry. There's all this chaos today.
But you know what I mean? Okay, what's the training? Don't sleep with your coworkers, right? Don't leak. There you go. That's the training.
How about just follow the protocol as it is?
Yeah. Don't waste the agent's
The other thing,
time.
though, can I ask you about? You pointed out earlier that in the report there's an instance where James Comey says he doesn't know that Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner are married.
Yeah, don't you watch The Five? We talked about that every single day.
That's what we focus on there.
She should have canned Huma. I don't know, right? She should have canned Huma a long time ago. Would have saved some trouble.
Huma should have canned.
Well, it's not Uma's fault. It's not Weiner's fault. It's Hillary's fault. But I think we're going to see this, and this is going to be one of a few IG reports, right? And it's only going to crystallize when you look at this IG report and then the next one coming down the pipeline about how the Russia investigation
I think the
was
next one
handled.
is actually about her email, the decision not to charge her on the emails. I think that's the next one.
Well, yeah, okay, and that's going to be enlightening.
Well,
and then we're going to see the decision that they
unredacted
made.
ones, though?
Right, well, and then we're going to see the decision that was made to open up this Russia collusion investigation, and we're going to see how differently the Hillary people were treated from the Trump people. Hillary was treated with extreme deference. Her people were given immunity. They destroyed evidence. There was no accountability there. And Trump and his team were treated like they were already guilty. And that's going to become clear. And we're going to see they've actually asked Strzok for his personal emails. And you know what he said? He refused to hand them over. So the